Fowler files are in the house, and I'm in my 49ers colors, apparently. Didn't mean to do this, but Brock Purdy gets paid. Yes, I am in support of his $265 million with 101 guaranteed over 5 years. What does this now mean, though, for the 49ers?
For the 49ers, it means they can have a normal offseason. They are thrilled to have both Brock Purdy and tight end George Kittle's contracts done, because last year was a bit of a mess. They had holdouts, they had injuries. They couldn't really get a rhythm in a normal offseason and training camp. Now, with a young team, they've moved on from a lot of stars. They really wanted to get Brock Purdy done early, assuming it was on their terms. So really both sides got what they wanted. 49ers got him at a reasonable clip, low $50 million per year, where Brock Purdy gets the security and he gets good guarantees, $181 million in the first 3 years. So right now everybody's happy, but they have to do something with Fred Warner, star linebacker, probably the best in the game, only 28 years old. He's got really big cap hits the next 2 years, $29 million and $27 million. So they want to rework his deal, maybe extend him. And then you would have 3 stars done. You don't have to worry about any more contracts, really, for the rest of the offseason.
What's crazy about Brock Purdy, who's getting $181 million guaranteed, he's going to get paid more per week going forward than he did in his 3 years total so far with the Niners, which is wild to wrap your brain around. Next week, though, in the NFL, it's spring meetings. Why could playoff changes be in discussion at these meetings?
Yeah, so at the league meetings, NFL owners will discuss a proposal from the Detroit Lions to change the playoff format, where it would be about the seeding would be about record primarily, as opposed to division winners, which the division winners now get the top 4 seeds. So the league has some support on this. It's considered a long shot to pass because owners would need to vote at least 24-8, so you need a majority of 24 or 32 votes to get this passed. I don't know if enough teams can wrap their head around that yet. They still cling to the fact that division winners are really important, and they believe that that's sacred. But I think the league will try to change this. This is more of a long-term play, because right now you have a 17-game schedule. They're going to eventually probably go to 18 games. The league wants to eliminate those meaningless games in those final weeks where teams may be locked into a 2 seed, can rest their starters. They want more late season impact. That's what the Lions want. That's why they proposed this. So we'll see if it gets enough traction. Probably won't pass this time, but eventually I could see it passing if it doesn't next week.
It makes sense that the Lions want this. I forget the exact scenario now, but obviously it was the Vikings and the Lions in the last game of the regular season. They both were atop the NFC North.
They were turned off by that game in the setup of
which makes
the
sense,
impact there.
considering they both had phenomenal records. All right, Jeremy Fowler, thank you. It all gets started on Tuesday from Minneapolis. We know you're going to be all over it. Thank you, Jeremy.
I'll be there. Thanks.
Trump on Dallas radio this morning addressed the addition of his new wideout, George Pickens.
I'm excited. I mean, you turn on the tape and you see a guy that can catch the football. You put the football anywhere in his vicinity, very strong hands, more than a 50-50 catcher. He thinks it's his ball when it's in the air, and I'm excited for him. I know that we need some help in that position. I know CD needs some help, and I think when you have a guy like that, and I heard George say it, it's hard to double team 2 guys, and then when you've got other guys, whether it be Ferg, Jalen Tolbert, Mingo, guys who have had reps and know how to get open in the league, I think we're putting together a nice group of weapons.
Dan, you just heard Dak addressing the idea of trying to double team both Pickens and Lamb. Just how hard will that duo make it on defenses?
Yeah, I think very, and that's why the addition of Pickens matters so much. Very rarely can you just line up defensively when I, as an offense, have really good player on one side, really good player on the other side. Lewis, you know this, and allocate 4 people to them. Because one of those guys is going to get singled up more than not. If not, then we get to run the football. And the reason why I like Ted McMillan in the draft to Dallas, and the reason why I like Pickens with the addition is CD is such a fluid, yards after the catch, win his routes, kind of get open one-on-one type of player. And then you have that big body, vertical frame opposite him. This now presents a lot of problems to defense before the ball ever gets snapped, of just structurally, how do you want to handle us? And so no matter who the opponent is, I agree. I think that's one of the top 6-7 wide receiver duos we have in the NFL right now.
What's interesting about Dallas is like the conversation with them always obviously starts with Dak. It starts with the perimeter players. I mean, the things that really have plagued Dallas over the past couple of years have not been really perimeter play. It hasn't really been skill position play, on a large scale. It's always been in the trenches. And for me, look, it's going to be about, Dallas' season is going to hinge on how this offensive line plays and how the defense plays in particular, especially right down the middle from defensive tackle to linebacker to safety. That's really going to be where their season hinges. Because I'll tell you what, Dak, they have a lot of advantages now in terms of athletes on the perimeter. There's no question about that. But think about their offensive line last year in terms of pass block win rate, especially when you're talking about the tackle positions. Look, Dak is now coming off of an injury. He's had 2 significant lower leg injuries now between his hamstring and his lower leg. Look, I think pass protection is going to be key. Run game is going to be key with this team before we even get to throwing the football.
Sure.
What version of Pickens are we getting? Because on the way out, as this always happens, you hear the stories. He was late for practices. He was late to games. And you start getting all that stuff out of the old play. If you're not motivated in a contract year in Big D when they're telling you, and Stephen Jones is publicly saying, like, we want you, then it might not ever happen. So for me, it's the maturity of the player. You know, CeeDee Lamb had 73 more targets than any other Cowboys receiver last year. That is the biggest gap between anyone else in the league. There are going to be balls for George Pickens. To me, it's what version of George Pickens are you getting? To me, I think you're going to get a motivated, and you're going to get a very good George Pickens from the start.
And there is so much on the line for George Pickens this year. But, Lou, you touched on the run game. I know we're talking about George Pickens here, but there are 3 new running backs in Dallas. Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, Jayden Blue. And I think they really like Jayden Blue.
I think Jayden Blue is going to end up
So
being
good.
the starting tailback.
I think they really like Jayden Blue in the backfield there. So I know we're devoting a lot of time to George Pickens, but I think that we're missing these 3 new running backs that play a huge new role for this Dallas Cowboys team when you're playing the Chiefs on Thanksgiving Day, when you're playing the Washington Commanders on Christmas Day, when you've got all these holiday games. I think it's a big deal, the run game.
And don't forget Phil Maffa also, who they drafted in the 7th out of Clemson, who is a bruiser now.
Right.
But again, I mean, these backs, and I don't mean to cut you off,
No,
Art,
you're good.
it's just going to start up front, though.
Sure.
Right.
Those backs, look, Jayden Blue, look, think about how they used him at Texas, right? He was a perimeter runner, a wide zone runner, a guy who liked to get the ball in space. He's not going to be banging it up in there in the inside, right? And he's not, because one, we don't know if there's going to be a lot of space in there anyway, because we don't know how good this offensive line is going to look. And Jayden doesn't want to run in there. I'm telling you, Dallas looks pretty on the perimeter. They got speed and playmakers galore. But tell me how their offense and defensive line are going to play.
Well, they
this
think
year.
Tyler Booker is a Pro Bowl guard that they drafted.
Yeah,
Let's say.
remember,
that's a good one.
If Tedero McMillan had been there,
Yeah.
that probably would have been the pick. He
Sure.
wasn't there, of course, so they said the next best player was going to be Tyler Booker, and they got their guy.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the Chiefs side of things. Lewis, it felt like the entire offseason focused on rebuilding that O-line.
Mm-hmm.
What did you make of where they landed?
Look, I think getting Josh Simmons 32nd overall, which obviously they flopped picks with Philadelphia, that could end up being, and look, I've used this term a couple different times, but I'm going to use it one more time. That could end up being the steal of the draft. You arguably have the best offensive lineman. He was playing the best football of any tackle in Power 4 last year before he got injured. And right now, they are ecstatic where he is at in terms of his rehab right now. And he's got the best trainer in the National Football League, and Rick Burkholder, who's going to be overseeing his rehab as they go through training camp. If you, along with him and Jalen Moore, if they can go ahead and solidify the left side of this offensive line with some of the other additions that they have, keep in mind, remember this, keep an eye on this kid, Brashard Smith from SMU, who they drafted in the 7th. He is an Alvin Kamara clone with like 4.3 speed. They have got a lot of things going on right now in Kansas City. Hey, man, they may have addressed their issues as good as anybody.
You know, it'll be really interesting around this time of year is what version of Rashee Rice are they getting in Kansas City? I just totally remembered. You know, almost forgot that he was on
Came
the
out
team.
great last year.
Right.
But through 8 games, he had like 80 catches.
They expect him to be healthy early.
How
but-
healthy is he? How is he back to full type Rashee Rice
Does he get
performance?
disciplined this year? Does he get disciplined?
I don't know.
what do you think?
Been waiting. I don't know. But by week
Is that a
13,
rhetorical question?
do they
I know.
get that
Do
full
you
version
know?
of him?
I'm going to say you don't right now, but
Well, I think it's floating